have to get more chairs. I'm gonna send them down. Hey Dave, I'm gonna set more chairs.
Okay, we'll get
Good
Good evening, everyone. We're glad everyone's here. Just a reminder, if you want to speak tonight during the citizens hearing portion of the meeting, you will need to sign in on the sheet on the podium. We'll get started here, so you'll all just come here.
This place is out of here. What do we need to do?
So we should be good.
Okay, where's that? All right. I am in control.
If I saw anybody picking their nose, being ready to one, that'd be hilarious. There's my hero pet. There's my hero. Almost left. And he's awake.
All right, we'll get everyone to sit down. Asking everyone to leave their phones in silent or vibrate mode, so that's not a disruption. All right, call the meeting to order. First item is the pledge of allegiance, so you will please all rise for the opening of the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Right, Elsie, please call roll.
Dave Bertlov.
Here.
Joe Biden.
Here.
Kathy Brooks. Here. Kevin Kelly. Here. Eric Kendrick. Bill Morris.
Here.
Lynn Norris. Here.
All right, first item on our agenda is our consent agenda, which includes our routine and non-controversial village. The minutes from our last meeting and closed meeting session from our April 5th board meeting, and financial statements and payment of the bills. Payment of the bills was like, because in our last meeting in April, we approved additional bills to be paid out of the budget year that just ended. So, anybody have any questions on the minutes or on the payment of the bills, any of the financial statements? None, motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the bills and the minutes from the last meeting and the closed session meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any final questions or discussion? Not else, roll call.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Eric Kendrick.
Yeah.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris. Yes.
What about Joe?
Yes, so you do?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Minutes. Consent agenda carried. We're gonna move on to the open portion, the citizens hearing of our meeting, and I just wanna cover a few things out of the rules that we have for the meeting. Anybody is available to speak as long as they register in writing on the sign-up sheet prior to the meeting. You will need to give your name and your address when you begin your presentation. You are to direct your comments to the board, not to other audience members. And anyone that wants to speak is limited to 5 minutes. I will keep a timer and remind you if it's 4.5 minutes, if you're still talking to the board. And any defamatory or obscene comments are not allowed, and if you break that rule, you will be asked to leave. So those are the basic outlines for our minutes. We just want everybody to be civil during our discussions tonight. So how many people do we have signed up, Elton?
3.
Okay, 3. Who's our first?
Excuse me, Michael Grady.
Mike?
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I spoke to you a week or so ago in regards,
Name and
I'm sorry, Michael Grady, 412 North McLean Hudson. I spoke to you a couple weeks ago, I don't remember when we were here last, in regards to Paragraph's request for a zoning change on the property near the library. Certainly understand the village's concerns, but my question tonight to you is, if not there, where? A daycare is critical to our community as it continues to grow. Well, there's no place for it in the uptown, in my opinion, and I guess you might feel the same way. In the middle of a residential area, and there's been some question as to whether this location is the middle of a residential area, but it's between a grade school and a library and a ballpark. To me, it seems like the most ideal location if we were gonna design a place for our community to have a daycare, it would be there. So my question to you that I hope you would consider and reconsider the decision to change that to commercial so that Tara can move forward with her plan is, if not there, where? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Olson, who's up next?
Ken Coons.
Ken? Just a reminder, you need your name and address.
We'll get you.
My name is Kenneth Coons, Town Coons Construction Incorporated, 111 Waller Street, Hudson, Illinois. Mayor's not here, I just want to clarify to everybody that we have done a soil analysis on the property up there that the daycare is being proposed on. We do have the ability to put an approved system on there. I just want to clarify any doubt that there's not the ability to put septic on that lot. There is the ability to put septic on that lot. We'll flag off the area so nobody travels over it, keep from compaction. That's what the flags are up there now. Everything has been done on our part. It was just a hold right now to move forward as far as zoning and permits. So that's where we stand on.
Thank you, Ken, it's good to know. Olson, who's next?
Matt Rector.
Matt?
Honorable Mayor, trustees of the board,
Matt, can you give us your
Matt
address?
Rector, 402 Southeast Street. And just thank you all again for your continued time and attention to this matter. And thank you to everyone here that's here to show support or be a part of the conversation. We're here basically today, it's our final plea. We're asking to reconsider the planning commission's recommendation regarding the zoning of the lot at the corner of Pearl and West Street. You know, this daycare, I've talked a lot to you guys, I'm sure you're tired of hearing from me about the benefits to the community. But it's gonna serve both future and current Hudson residents. It gives the freedom to pursue their personal, professional goals and dreams with the peace of mind that a child is only a few blocks from home. They'll cut many hours of the weekly commute for parents, and this is time that they can reinvest in their children, in their families, whether it's their education, their leisure activities, recreation, sports, or even the career pursuits of the parents. It's not just about the kids, but this center will allow parents and the families to reach another level of potential that might have been out of their reach. And I want to echo what Mike said. We have a great location for this. There's a viable business plan. Investors that are willing to speak with not just their mouths, but their wallets. And an entrepreneur who's willing to dedicate her life's work to this worthwhile and noble cause. And that's not to say that there's not issues that need to be discussed or worked through. But the objects that are, or obstacles that are in front of Tara and her business, they're not unique obstacles. And we've faced them as a community before. Two that come to mind is both Casey's and Dollar General are both operating on lots that formerly were zoned as residential. If you look at a bird's eye map, a winning argument could be made that both of those businesses share closer proximity and greater frequency, so both more in numbers and closer proximity than this lot does to other residential homes. Casey's not only required the zoning change, but the use of special use permits to make their business work. It wasn't just a simple solution. It took some time to work through it, but we found a way to make it work for those businesses. So I asked, why not this business? And we got some very bad news today from IA Creighton. And they informed us that they will not follow through with the financing of this project unless we change the zoning to commercial. And so now, we've kind of been waiting for all the relevant information. Well, it's here, we have it, it's in front of us. And so it's time for us to make a decision. And this is a great opportunity for this community. I listed the location, the investors, the bank that's willing to finance it, the entrepreneur is willing to pursue it. All of those factors don't come together very often. So we have a great opportunity in front of us. All we have to do is say yes. Mr. McGrath mentioned in some correspondence today, we had made some promises through an affidavit and said it was totally irrelevant. That the village can rezone this property at their own initiative at any time. So my question is, what risk is there in saying yes to this? You can revoke it at any time. And on the other side of the coin, we're kind of here stuck with the bill, so to speak. And so we do have a lot at risk here. So, it is time for us to make a decision. And again, I respectfully ask that we reconsider the planning commission's recommendation and consider changing the zoning from commercial to residential. So thank you.
Thank you. Olson, that was it? Three? Okay, thanks everyone for your input tonight. We'll be considered when we discuss this later in the meeting, so. Next item on our agenda is swearing in our elected officials. We have 4 trustees, I believe, we need to swear in, and we're going to swear all 4 of you in at once. So Allison, if you would,
It's just 3.
how about Bill?
Oh, right. Yep, so just 3.
So
Aaron.
Aaron, Joe, Phil, and Kevin, I think. Okay, the 3 of you and Phil, you'll have to just listen and recite along. You'll join her at the podium. There will be a picture taken after you're sworn in.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of village trustee
the duties of the office of
duties of the office of village trustee
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
I couldn't tell, did we get the picture we needed? Okay, thank you. Okay, I've asked Pat to explain a position.
So we had a 4th trustee elected, the paragraph was elected, an open trustee position. My understanding is there is a desire to accept for taking the oath to be sworn in and accept that appointment. In which case, in order to create a vacancy, since she was duly elected, we will need a written resignation signed and notarized. I am a notary. Tara, if you want to talk to me before you leave tonight, we can get that taken care of tonight. But that way, we have paperwork on the village side, something showing the village didn't disregard the results of the election, but we'd rather have it writing that you declined or resigned from the office that you were elected to. Once that resignation exists, then the village can vote to fill the position. So there's an item on the agenda tonight to appoint Kathy to fill that open trustee position. We won't be able to act on that item until we have that resignation from Tara.
Can participate as a trustee tonight.
Yes, thank you. I can speak to that. And I'm sorry, until a successor is duly appointed, qualified, and sworn in, Kathy's essentially a holdover in the office. So you are allowed to continue to participate in it.
All right, so our next bullet item is the, I recommend for our annual appointments for treasurer and for police chief, respectively, I recommend Sarah Hill and Mark Cotty. And we will need a motion to make those appointments.
I'm gonna make a motion to retain, the treasurer, Sarah Hill, and the police chief, Mark Cotty.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to second. Any questions? Not, roll call.
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Aaron Pinder.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris. Yeah.
All right, Ellison, if you would please go ahead and swear them in.
You know what I'm doing?
Two separate
We can do it
times.
together? I don't know. Can we do it together?
You can do it together.
Wait.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of police chief or treasurer
the duties of the office of police chief
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you, and I just wanna let everyone know, I look forward to working with everyone for the next couple of years. I think we've got a great group here, and I think we'll accomplish a lot. Thanks to everyone. Next item is, a change start voting procedure. While I was looking through ordinances, I found ordinance 5B-9, which talks about voting. Every trustee has to vote on every issue or abstain, which is nothing different. If you don't vote, it'll be counted as an abstention. It says a roll call vote is only required on a matter creating a liability against the village or expending village funds, or when we move to closed session under the Open Meetings Act. So for most of our votes, I will just ask for, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay, and if there are any negative votes, then we'll do the roll call vote to document who votes, which way. So hopefully that'll save a little time and prevent a little boredom while we do all the routine voting, so. If I remember to call for the vote that way, we'll move ahead that way, so. Next item on the agenda is our sewer steady status. Greg?
Sir. We continue to make progress on the pre-final facilities planning report. Late last week and early this week, I was making, putting together finalizing cost estimates with new costs from very recent bid opening results we had. And I wanted to make sure that we had some spring 23 numbers. The pre-final includes input from the plan commission meeting on the 30th of January and the village board special meeting of February 16th. And also, we've moved forward with the projected population growth for the next 50 years from the information that the mayor had put together from the March meeting. And we've got that in order. So we have those numbers coming together. As far as, I'm just trying to understand my notes here. Oh, and then we also, that's what it was, I'm sorry. We had put our cost estimate for future engineering, year term, for fiscal year 23-24 on March 21st. We provided that to the mayor and village board on cost coming with regard to the sewer system progress. And then I know we're wanting to move forward with the public hearings. And Mayor, I am available May 16th or 18th, if those dates work.
Okay, I would like to have a meeting primarily with the trustees before we start meeting with the general public.
Itself, okay.
It'll have to be an open meeting, it's not a closed session topic, but it will be primarily similar to the one we had a couple months ago, where the trustees are the ones that need to review the material. Will the report be here final by that time?
Well, it will be fully baked from the engineer's perspective. It won't have any public input, it won't have any more recent trustee input. The cost estimates will be there so that we'll be comparing the various physical options. And so I think it will create quite a bit of discussion. I would imagine that there will be changes to the report as a result, because we draw conclusions based on input from the village. I won't have those finalized in the report without the input from the village and some discussion with the public. So, you know, those components will still need to be, like I said, from the engineer's perspective, we'll have everything on the table.
Good. How many of the trustees are available on May 16th? That's Tuesday. Just check your calendar, Joe. Kathy. Lynn is not. Kevin is. Phil, how about you? Are you available on either the 16th or 18th?
I believe so.
Okay.
18th, I am, the 16th.
Either one. Kathy, about 18th? Kevin?
18th is fine.
Okay, let's go for 18th.
Okay.
We will meet in the police department conference room. Mark will go put us on the calendar for that. So. Yep.
Does the final report have anything about funding possibilities in it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so like that's up to date too with anything the government's kicking out recently, they're keeping up with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe, we'll be presenting various options on where the funds can come from.
Allison, I didn't ask, are you available that night?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Okay, so May 18th, we'll have our next meeting on the sewer status, and then hopefully we'll have the reports from you to go over before our meeting.
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay? Good, thank you.
You have the time.
Anybody have any questions for Greg?
7.
7 o'clock. I'm sorry. Anybody have any questions for Greg? Okay, we'll move on. Next bullet point is a discussion on solar. We talked to one company, had a preliminary meeting with the second company, and they're waiting to hear back from them. Contacted the third company, and they have not contacted me back yet. What I would like for the board to do tonight is consider either moving ahead and submitting, putting ads in the paper to request bids for converting this building and the water building to solar. Or do we think we have enough information to go ahead and request bids? And Pat, as long as you're here, if we request a bid, don't like it, are we obligated to accept it?
No, you can reject all.
No.
You're permitted to reject all bids. You just
So
don't.
we could reject all bids.
You wouldn't need, if you're gonna truly bid it, you would need, enough bid specifications so that all the bids come in on an even plane.
So do we wanna get more energy, or, more information? Yeah, I need more energy. Do we wanna get more information before we move on this, or are we ready to go ahead and at least get bids? We had somebody from the audience raise their hand.
I run a solar company, I can share any information you would like.
Okay,
To help you guys out.
we don't wanna put you at an unfair advantage if you would happen to be one of the companies that would bid, so.
So I'm not in that bid.
Oh, okay.
So we're coming out for the fourth quarter, but as far as like the information, I can help you out with the SRAX, the 30% federal tax, all that information I can help you out with.
All right, I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but I am. Have you heard what caused the fire at Olympia?
Yeah, a solar fire.
It was solar panels?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would not recommend solar panels, I would recommend GAF solar if it comes to, my 2 cents. I would go after solar.
Okay. You would not recommend solar panels or solar at all?
Solar panels for sure. A lot of sketchy companies, a lot of mom and pop shops that get bought up after they make a couple $1 million, and then the warranty's gone, you have basically nothing. That's my 2 cents. The third company we probably didn't hear back from was Titan Solar. That's who I sold for, and yeah, and they're not a good company.
It was a different company, but, thank you for your opinion.
Yeah, no problem, just
Thanks.
wanna let you know my information.
Okay, so what's the board's opinion? Do we wanna get more information or drop it altogether?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm impartial, I don't know.
Why don't we pin it for a couple months, see if we can research more information?
I think more information would be valid. Going out for bids at this point, I think it's premature.
That's good, that's why I brought it up and didn't know where we were at, so. All right, would anybody like to be in charge of gathering additional information? Thanks everyone for volunteering.
I can help out.
Okay. You stop by and see me after the meeting, so we're looking for resources. So.
Yeah.
I know a couple other people who might have input for us too, so.
100%.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is, report on water, public property, streets and zoning. Danny?
First off, I'd like to thank you all for running again and being back on the board. I've appreciated working with all of you and continue to look forward to doing so. With that being said, water usage for this month was 2.63 million, 87,000 a day. We got in, as I spoke last month, our lead service line inventory. However, there's two different forms. The broad form we got in, the kind of short version, their computer system locked up, and we're still trying to work through getting that in. Also, you should be receiving your water bills, the CCR little sticker that was put on there that directs you to the website to talk about that as well. Sarah, did you have a chance to figure out the law?
Email it out tomorrow.
Okay. like to thank, Phil for, going with me. We got the roller and the compactor, this last month. The playground, one of the pieces of the playground has an issue and, been trying to use up the last of my time as we're coming to the end of the fiscal year here, and also been trying to find out some options on the playground. At this point, I don't have 100% complete information to pass on to you as far as replacement, repair of that, but that piece of equipment is still usable at this point. The concession stand, has been open this last month. Next week right now is supposed to be warmer. I do have, an HVAC guy coming to put in the part that we've had for a while to fix the air conditioner. Tomorrow will be, we bought today, tomorrow we'll be installing a new keypad lock to the concession stand, room door. That will be passed on to you guys. The dog park, pavilion, hopefully we're gonna pour the pad this next month, to work on the pavilion. We've got picnic tables up there already. I see an awful lot of usage of that based on the wear of the grass going in and out of the door. This month also, I was told the bottom shed should be re-roofed as well as the addition should be started. So we are very close to being ready for them to start that. I don't have any other further updates on the exact date other than in the month of May. With that being said, hopefully start working on some of these drainage projects as my list is pretty long in that area. I believe today, the final component, mechanical component of the water, system for redoing that over there was supposed to come in today. Did you see it came in this afternoon? It should be here. I got a call from them that they were gonna be delivered, today or tomorrow, so hopefully later this week or the beginning of next week, we'll work on reconfiguring that plumbing as well as installing the SCADA software. I also got, talked to the Badger meter rep, and for an additional $1,400, we can replace the mechanical innards of the meter, the master meter, and put a transmitter on top of that will tie into the SCADA system. So I'm gonna look at getting some more specs on possibly doing that and adding that in. That information just really came to me Friday and yesterday. So that I believe is what I had.
Do we have any questions for Danny? Danny, thank you and your crew for keeping everything going. You're doing a great job. Next report is from our village marshal, Mark Cuddy.
Right, everyone should have a copy of this, the written report. I'll just hit some highlights and then open it for any questions, if you have some questions about anything else. During the month, we did register 12 golf carts, so people are coming in really registering. We're up to 29. Last year we had 33, so we may have more than last year. We did take a couple criminal reports this month. We took a criminal damage to property report and investigated and performed follow-up to an electronic harassment report. Those are the two main reports we took. Myself and Officer Lane, we did work at the St. Jude fundraiser event, which was a wonderful event. There weren't any problems with any of the other businesses in town. Went smooth and it was very well attended, and they of course made a lot of money with it. We did finally wrap up the aggravated battery that occurred at the Citadel in March. So we obtained a warrant, we arrested the suspect involved in the aggravated battery. And I do want to thank Officer Lane, I assigned that to him, he did the majority of the actual investigation. I supervised, but he did the legwork with it, got the warrant and everything for the arrest. We attended, Kevin, Kelly, myself, and Officer Lane, we attended 2 separate meetings. The body camera and squad car cameras with the vendor Axon. And Axon is a big company that provides this service. There's only really one other company that can compete with Axon, and that's Motorola Solutions. They used to have they bought out WatchGuard. So I will get a quote from Motorola Solutions, set up a Zoom meeting, their rep, and go over the actual quote. And then we can discuss it and see which one we want to move forward. It probably will not be apples to apples. They're totally separate companies, and while they do things similar, they are somewhat dissimilar with what they offer. So I'll try to make it simple when we do present it, because their quotes are sometimes 20-some pages long, because they explain everything, very technical terms what they offer. So. And then also we took an accident report, 700 block North Broadway Street, just a property damage accident, no injuries on that. And then it didn't come through the front door of the police station, it really should, because it's got a brand new door Childers put in, and it's great. It's very nice that the door closes and locks very easily. So we got that also complete. So any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Next board item is civil defense director, and Jeff is at the fire department meeting. I know I heard the sirens today, and they all go off, as far as we know.
Yes.
Okay. So next up is report of standing committees. First is finance, budget, contracts, and employees. Lynn?
Yep, I got one thing on my agenda, but first, I just want to remind everybody that we have 2 big things this week. We got Hudson Garage Sales this weekend, and the farmer's market. Starts on Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30 at the Methodist Church parking lot. We have a lot of great here. Okay, so the only thing on my agenda is to approve the appropriations ordinance and discuss it. Does anybody have questions on what this is? Yeah.
How about a 3-sentence explanation?
Sarah.
So we approve this every year, it's tied to the budget and the appropriation of the funds. So we have to, that's something required, Pat, better than what I said, so please take over.
Your appropriations, that's the legal maximum you can spend in any given fund. You are able to make adjustments through the course of the year through either line item transfers or supplemental appropriations. Generally, it sets your maximum for expenditures. The other thing it does, it sets the maximum amount you can levy in a given fund. So if you appropriate $10,000 for your police department, which is less than I'm sure you did, you can't ask for a $20,000 levy, because you're saying the most we could possibly need to spend for our police department is $10,000. So those are the 2 caps you establish: the most you can levy, the most you can spend without subsequent legislative action.
I just thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, so if there are no other questions on it, I wanted to make a motion to approve the annual appropriation order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the annual appropriations levy. Are there any final questions or discussion? Now we'll do a roll call vote. Allison?
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Eric Hinder.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. I do remind everybody, farmer's market, garage sale, has always been a good event for Hudson. A lot of people enjoy it, so hope to see everybody out this weekend. Next on our list is street department trustee Phil.
Yes. I really don't have anything tonight.
Okay, Phil, we're glad you're able to join us. I know you're traveling right now, so we're glad you're able to join us. So everyone's aware of it. The governor's disaster declaration ends May 11th. So this is the last month that you can attend a meeting remotely without having the previous excuses of traveling for work, of being ill, and I believe there's one other. Yeah,
Those are the two primary ones.
those are the two primary ones, so. I know there's work being done to try and get it changed, but that's the way the law will be, the way it is starting May 12th, so everybody's aware of it. Okay, Phil, I do wanna thank you for going with Danny to picking up the roller. I don't remember how much money you saved for delivery. It was substantial, I believe, wasn't it? So, yeah, so thanks for taking the time to do that, Phil.
No problem.
On the ordinance and zoning department, Kathy?
Okay, I'll start off with the planning commission recommendation and vote. I believe the planning commission executed their mandate exemplary. I still believe that the particular lot should remain residential. We can go with a special use as we have as we did with Casey's for their septic system. Nowhere in the mandate for the planning commission is the financial situation of the applicant pertinent. This has been a stressful decision for everyone, the applicant, the planning commission, and the board. There's nothing simple about it. But I still stand by the planning commission's recommendation. And as such, I'm making a motion to accept the recommendation for it to remain residential.
Okay, we have a motion to leave the property residential. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to leave the property residential. Before we vote, I would like to first ask the planning commission, I know you gave your recommendation at our last meeting, but we never asked you, why you made the recommendation you did, so I would like you to have an opportunity to explain that. Richard, if you or anyone from the planning committee would like to explain that, that'd be appreciated.
So our decision was based on the nature and the character of that area and the changing of that away from to the commercial didn't fit that as far as when we look at the overall as a whole and for residents in that area. It was just outside of what the nature of that area is. It has nothing to do with anything other than that, strictly that lot itself.
And jump in there. I wanna address procedure and kind of legal directions. You guys understand where we are and any issues at play. The planning commission had a very specific job, and I appreciated their engagement with myself to understand what the task was, and Richard's summary of the basis for the recommendation is reflective of what their task is. Their task, both as a premise of state law and also under your code, to consider land use and to make a recommendation for you on the basis of land use factors. The factors laid out in your code is essentially the suitability of the property for the uses in the existing district, for what would be in a proposed new district, the character and types of land uses nearby, the zoning of the nearby property, and any tenants for future land use adopted in a comprehensive plan. It's land use focused. It's not a question for the planning commission to consider whether Smiley's daycare should be at this site, but rather whether this site is more suited for a commercial or for the R2, the current zone. The village board's choice does not have to be that narrowly constrained. Your code provides, which reflects state law, that essentially you act either accept or reject the recommendation of the planning commission, legislative act for the board to make. So they're giving you an advisory recommendation for the perspective of land use, which you can accept or reject. your consideration is not limited to only those factors which the planning commission weighed. You're allowed to consider other factors if you as a board member feel those factors are appropriate. State law can have some itemization based on the zoning challenges of what some of the appropriate considerations are. Some of them overlap, things like existing uses and zoning of nearby properties, whether and to what extent a change in zoning would diminish property values, the extent to which the reduction of property values would promote the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the public, the balance between gain to the public versus hardship to the individual property owner, suitability for the zone purpose, amount of time the subject property has been vacant, is zoned in the context of land development in the area, community need for the proposed use, and the care which the community undertook to plan its land use development. So I often have to say, those aren't factors you're required to consider. You are making a legislative choice as an elected member of the legislative board. Have a committee with a focus on land use, made a land use based recommendation. You can decide to act and focus your vote on land use, you can focus on other factors. That is your purview as a village board. That makes sense.
I have a question. Can you speak on if the board decided to rezone it commercial and we later wanted to rezone it back to residential, how that works?
So, the person with an interest in the property or the village itself can ask for rezoning at any point in time. So you could, down the road, if the property were to be changed today or not, in any instance, the village has the authority from time to time to initiate a rezoning process. The process would be the same as what's happened to date. So if the village wanted to rezone the property, the village would be the petitioner to ask for zoning, you'd have a hearing before the planning commission, notice, opportunity for people to be heard, then it'd come before the village board to vote on. If you were to down the road change zoning, any existing use would be grandfathered, subject to any limitations in your existing code about grandfathering. A grandfathered status isn't eternal. In some codes it is, but in many codes there's some triggers at which that grandfathering will expire. But if 5 years from now, this property is no longer a daycare and it's some other use, or if it's daycare and you rezone it, that use can likely continue as a grandfathered use, but no new use could be established which wasn't permitted in the new zoning classification. That makes sense. So if you make it commercial today, you later make it residential, when you make the switch, the existing use can continue as a grandfathered use. Whether the property owner consents or doesn't consent to the rezoning isn't essential. It's, certainly helpful if the owner consents, but it's not essential. You could rezone of your own initiative without the owner's sign off on it. The other thing I should speak of, I'm sorry, I was going to apologize. So what was requested was a rezoning, which changes the underlying zoning classification, allows any permitted use in the new district to be established at the site. What's been discussed is a special use, which is an alternative tool which allows only one use and which would require a subsequent zoning change. You cannot award a special use tonight, but you could request the planning commission convene further proceedings to evaluate changing the ordinance and make a special use available. We're not comment tonight about whether or not that would meet with the underlying financing requirements of this particular development lender. Apart from that, that is a choice you have if you feel that is prudent on how you proceed. I was not at the meeting where the planning commission's recommendation was presented to you, that from what I have gathered, that may have been something to comment on. That would be your next step procedurally if you were interested in that option.
I have questions for the zoning board if they'll entertain an answer. I mean, so I think what Richard said was that you really mostly, or maybe all you considered was the current usage around that land is residential. I mean, did you discuss or consider at all that I mean, it's always good to get more businesses in town, you get more tax revenue, you get more services for the residents. I mean, did you consider that we need more commercial space because we don't have much now. I'm not aware that there's really any for sale uptown. Was that a consideration at all?
So we talked about commercial and versus residential and specifically to that location.
I mean, but does the planning commission feel there's any need for more commercial space in Hudson, or you really don't want any more businesses moving in?
No, I think that the goal of the village and the plan is to bring more business to Hudson. That's correct.
And where would that land be? I mean, some farmland would have to be converted or something is the thought?
So, yeah, so that would be something that as part of that plan moves forward, as we look at growing Hudson, where do we want that commercial entity or area to be located? Right, do we want it together, do we want it more centralized, where's the plan for that? And as Dollar General, and this is outside of work, but as Dollar General had started there, in that area, there's potential for that to be a commercial area out there. Not saying it is, but there's potential out there, right? So you would have multiple commercial entities together in that area. That's just one school of thought. Yes, we did talk about, is this the right place to build to be commercially designated within?
And my concern is, I don't know that any of that other land is available to develop on. I mean, we do have this lot, and we have someone interested in purchasing a commercial lot. I think they've already purchased it, so, I think it's a good thing to get more services for the village, it's a good thing to get more tax revenue for the village, and we're kind of limited on where we can put stuff. So you considered that, you're saying, and don't think that this is the right spot.
At this point, we feel that it's residential, that there is opportunity to have our understanding is there's opportunity for commercial further out west from the village. And there is opportunity for that land to be obtained.
Okay, thank you.
I can't talk to that, but that is what, I just don't know, it's not that I can't talk, I don't know the details around that. My understanding is there's property that can be bought in the west of the village there to move forward commercial.
You know, my big decision was that we went through the elevator. And they wanted to zone that from commercial to, industrial. And the residents didn't want it. And my feeling of it is with Hudson, if it's John Doe, whoever it is, and my decision is to protect the public of Hudson. Now, I don't know how anybody would feel that was next to them that's on the board. I mean.
That what?
I heard say this first tax is the only tax.
Okay, please address your comments to the board. We've already completed the public input portion. We're asking for input from the planning commission right now on what their thoughts were.
I was just requesting that you clarify what you did.
I'm sorry?
I was just requesting that you clarify, when you said, how would you like to have that next year, if you was referring to a area that has been converted to industrial, from agricultural, or commercial base?
Okay, the public portion of the meeting is over. Right now, the board is working with the planning commission and getting their thoughts on why they made that recommendation. There will be a discussion among board members to get all of our questions answered. And we may call upon the audience at that point in time, but right now, we're just working with the planning commission. So would anybody else on the planning commission would like to volunteer any information?
I'm gonna address a little bit, going back to the property and what you said. We looked at that property itself. That's what we were advised to do. We did consider, and our understanding is, they looked at the daycare. We didn't look at the daycare itself, but from our understanding, other properties were looked at by the daycare. So that would give me hope and thought that there is other properties elsewhere that were available or that they were looking at. My understanding is they were guided to this property. How that happened, I don't know. But looking at that individual property, where it is, the school is zoned residential, the ballparks are zoned residential. They have special use permits. We feel keeping this residential is the best thing for the community. Not saying that the business coming to the community is bad thing. I am all for a daycare in the community. I think it's a great option. I don't think rezoning that to commercial is the right choice.
Okay, question for Danny. The schools and the library are, I believe, by ordinance, can go anywhere. They don't need a special use permit. Is that correct?
They are what I believe, Pat, correct me if I'm speaking wrong, but it's not a special use, they are exempted and or allowed in all districts. They are not confined to a specific district.
The school I know specifically to be, libraries I don't know offhand without looking at it, but schools specifically by state law is exempted from public schools, are exempted from their zoning rights.
I believe our code speaks to utility companies, recreational fields, detention basins, sewer lift stations, libraries, schools, churches, etc., all being exempt from being required to be in a district.
And that's just so everybody understands, those buildings do not or have special uses.
Yeah,
Special
but if
use
like if the
permits.
school would be shut down because of financial conditions or whatever, that would revert back to residential.
It still is residential.
Right, but, well, right now it's school, it's special.
Okay, I have a question for planning commission and board. So I know we heard from at our meetings, we heard from residents, Hudson residents. And I was at the public hearing of the planning commission, but I didn't make the second one. Were there additional residents either in person or by letter that we have heard from about the zoning?
We have not.
No.
We got no additional input from anybody outside of what we had in the public hearing. We got the individuals who came to the planning commission discussion and our decision was the same individuals who either at the public hearing or provided us either written documentation of their opinion.
Am I allowed to, if I see a resident, am I allowed to address the resident that I know has spoken?
I don't have your rules of comment memorized, whether your rules of comment allow a trustee individually to recognize a member of the public.
Okay.
I can pull up your code on my phone and look at that if you don't mind doing so.
Dave did attend our last meeting,
Okay.
but he had submitted written before. He was there, but we had, that's what Richard was saying, he did attend our last meeting.
And I guess while you're looking that up, I guess one question I had real quick was, so, let's just say for some reason we decided to rezone this commercial. How long do we have to wait if we decided to move, to rezone back to residential?
Your code has no, no minimum buffer. If you're to rezone the property before the use is established, no use will be grandfathered.
So we could rezone a commercial, and as soon as the building goes up and the use is established, rezone it back to residential.
Nothing would prohibit you from, nothing would prohibit you from following that path.
And at that point, would ultimately get us our goal of keeping it residential for the long run.
You would be free to pursue that option.
That's cheating.
I haven't seen anything in the code that prohibits us from asking a member of the audience, so.
And since it is a rule of procedure of the board, I haven't got your code pulled up on my phone, but if none of the trustees object to Lynn recognizing a member of the public to speak at this moment, you're no objection.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard you speak about it and your concerns initially. Was there anything additional or did anything change since we heard from you last?
There, a lot of my concerns are still there. Drainage is still a concern. Traffic was probably my highlighted concern, an increase in traffic. Property values are a concern that I addressed during the commission. You know, we put a business next to a house, you know, regardless of what that business is, how does that change property value of the house? I think that a daycare center in that area fits with kind of some of the other things going there. Seeing the plan gives me a little more comfort. However, I'm still very concerned that the lot next to me, you know, it doesn't affect a lot of Hudson residents, you know, why are not a lot of Hudson residents speaking? Because half of them don't know, 2/3 of them don't know, and, you know, 7/8 of them don't care because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah.
You know, but it directly affects me, it's right next to my house. So I'm very concerned that that gets zoned commercial because of potential changes.
Thank you.
Phil, you're, can't see you, do you have any thoughts or questions for anyone, Phil?
Right now, you know, the planning commission has, pretty well, spoke. I kind of see it the way the planning commission sees it. And, I don't really have anything. I was at both meetings for the planning commission, and I think, they're making sense and how their recommendations. So, I really don't have anything else to add. I think the daycare center is a great idea. I just wish, you know, from the beginning, I mean, to make an investment like Tara and Max did, without really knowing what was going to happen there, I feel for them, but to make that kind of investment without knowing, I wish they'd have checked it out further and possibly looked at some other land options that could have been, looked at. Maybe the first piece of land she was looking at could have been made into more of a commercial area than what the area they purchased.
Does anybody on the board have any other questions or thoughts they want to share before we vote?
No, I think Phil kind of, I concur with what he says. I think he stated what I feel, right? I hate person investing money. I feel for that. I wish that we're at this point. It makes sense, like kind of what Richard said, the planning commission meetings. I attended both of those. It's a hard decision. Backtrack it. And maybe things could have been done differently, but at this point, I have to side with the residents. That special use, I would be in favor of that. I mean, if that would be a go, but it doesn't sound like that's a go, but based on the current information I have and I understand it, I would have to stick with residential.
Am I allowed to make a recommendation or something?
You would vote if there was 3-3, you're allowed to state a position.
I'm gonna add something here that hasn't been brought up recently, and that's the future of Hudson, you know, over the next 20, 30 years. How do we wanna see Hudson change? Yes, we don't have any other commercial ground right now, but Unit 5 just went through a referendum, and I think we're all aware of it, and they threatened to close Carlac School if the referendum didn't pass. I don't know how many of you were here 15 or 20 years ago, but they threatened to close that school if the referendum didn't pass. And why Hudson wasn't on the list this time, I believe, is because we've had pretty good enrollments out here. They have bused some nearby neighborhoods to the school, but the school is what makes Hudson one of the good things about Hudson. And I think we need to keep that in mind as we decide what we wanna do for the future of Hudson. My understanding is that this year there are 2 kindergartens of 14 members each, and that they're gonna be combined to a single grade next year, which makes me think that the overall enrollment for the grade school is likely to decline over the next couple of years. And if there's anything we can do to keep Hudson an attractive place for people to look at, to live at, I think that's part of the consideration of our vote. So, I know what this was mentioned here briefly a couple weeks ago, but it's something that's very important on my mind. My grandkids are about out of school, but I'm sure all of you have got kids or grandkids that may be looking at Hudson School at some time, so keep that in mind, the future of Hudson. Will this be a good thing or a bad thing? So.
Yeah, generally, I don't think we've had a lot of opportunities for, new businesses to come to town. So I think we have a shortage of commercial land. I mean, I understand that, the immediate neighbors, have some issues. I think some of those issues we fixed. I would hope we could fix the drainage issue. I hope we could fix the traffic issue. So there's the issue of property value. We had a real estate agent at the last meeting that says, property values will go down. I would think property values can go up also, but there's more services in the city. I'm not a real estate agent, so I won't make a guess which way it would go. But generally, more services in the city is good. To have more services, you need more commercial ground. So, I mean, if we make this commercial ground, we work with the immediate adjacent residents and do things, do everything we can to, fix any concerns. And the concern only becomes, what could go there next, right? Whether it was bad or not. We could maybe change that by, zoning it back to residential. I don't really like that plan. It seems unfair to someone coming to our community and build a commercial building, and then we change it to residential on them. It has to be, lose value then. That doesn't seem fair to do that thing. I think we should decide residential or commercial. I would like to see more commercial properties at commercial land in Hudson, so it can expand and grow.
Okay, do the trustees or planning commission have anything else to add? Not, I have a procedural question for Pat. Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the planning commission's recommendation to leave the property zone residential. If that passes, then the next topic would be about a special use permit, possible. If it fails, then the next could be a recommendation or a vote to go commercial with the property, is that correct?
That's correct. You could also, that's correct, yes. Sometimes we vote, even if we're a no on the vote, sometimes we pose the questions, rezoning the property, and so the motion, if the motion was amended to say, vote to amend the change zoning ordinance for residential and commercial, then vote up to yes, I want to change the zoning, vote no, I'm not going to change it, no matter what we want to vote. You can proceed just as you laid out, motion on the floor, unless amended by another motion or by consent is just what you laid out. So I always like to clarify when we have double negatives, so if you vote yes, you're saying no to the rezone. You're accepting the planning commission's recommendation, saying no to the rezone. You vote no, you're implicitly rejecting the planning commission's recommendation, suggesting you're in favor of the rezone. First one.
Okay, so is there any additional discussion from the trustees or the planning commission?
I'll just say, I've been struggling with this for the last week. Listening to people in the community. Everybody seems like they want this daycare to come to town. But in the same token, everybody is worried that if it doesn't make it go, what is going to go in that space? And I listen to Joe, you're right, I mean, if we go commercial, do we really, at that point, turn around and make it back residential again? And I can teeter it back and forth.
That seems unfair to me, like I said.
I know, and I wish the planning commission was able to take everything into account that we are able to take into account versus just the small amount that they're able to look at.
One other possibility, which may or may not be responsive to your concern, but a third option exists beyond the special use and beyond rezoning and unrezoning. You could also have the planning commission do a deep dive into permitted uses in your commercial zoning district and do an assessment of whether your present permitted uses are consistent with the way you want them to be. Consider whether you need any additional or different zoning districts, so creating another layer of commercial, moving some existing commercial use, special uses. If your concern is, we're good with this use, but we're not good with some of the other possible uses, a broader question may be, are you good with those other uses elsewhere? So in other words, if we don't want a dispensary here, do we want a dispensary downtown either? Is that something we want to make a special use or legislate out? So you could also look at use regulation in the form of underlying ordinance changes as a third alternative beyond rezoning and unrezoning and beyond a special use.
Creating multiple classifications.
You could either create multiple classifications or move uses. So I don't have your zoning ordinance committed to memory, but you're gonna have permitted and special uses in each district. You can say, planning commission, take a look at the uses and make sure you think permitted uses in our commercial districts are uses we feel are generally permissible broadly across the commercial district. And if there are potential uses that we don't think meet our current community zoning standards and values, that we want to make special uses, or maybe we want to make industrial use, or, there are different ways in which they could reform your use regulation so that what we sometimes call in my profession parade of horribles, the series of hypotheticals that could be bad that are afforded under the current zoning district are reduced down. So, and I can't say specifically, here are the 10 things they should change, because I haven't looked at that, and I don't have those uses committed to memory, but that's a part of the zoning change. If you have uses that are permitted in commercial, you don't think you want in a commercial district, they can address that in movement change.
For a list of uses like that, you must kind of list them explicitly, you can't say something not allowed, and then that would be an illegal thing.
Well, generally, if it's, you schedule out specific things that are permitted, and if they're not permitted, then they're not allowed. So the implication is not, it's not we exclude uses, which we permit, and it's not permitted, it's excluded, or a special use.
And how restrictive can you make that?
In terms of,
When you're talking,
like how restricted the list can be?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, as long as you can define it as a use, you can classify it.
So we could classify, we could put all the way down to a daycare.
You could define and I think there is actually a current home daycare classification, but not a public daycare type facility.
Yeah, that's the split.
You could get in, some zoning codes have, some might be broad and say retail shops are permitted. Others might define a liquor store different from a cannabis dispensary, different from an auto parts store, different from, a grocery store. So you can drill down and define uses pretty specifically and distinguish the zoning basis. As long as you can define the use, you can distinguish it. So you can start breaking things down into component parts and saying these component parts are allowed, these component parts are not.
Which would help us to safeguard that area for the future.
And even beyond that area, that may help you safeguard your general commercial district.
If I could, to add to what Pat's saying, right now, some of that is listed as differentiating between C1 and C2. So there's a specific list, like as Pat referred to, auto body shop is like in C2 versus retail store or a doctor's office might be in C1. So some of those specific things are, broken out already. And I think what he's saying is maybe right now, auto body is say listed in C2, if you would so want the planning commission to look at that to make so an auto body shop would be in C1 or allowed even in residential, that's something that you could request the planning commission to do, if I'm hearing that correctly.
Yeah, you're understanding me correctly. You can tell them, look at the uses, we look at how they're classified, do we need to define more uses, do we need to move where they are, do we need to make permitted uses, special uses? Are the current zoning restrictions of uses reflective of where we want those lines to be drawn? So in sometimes cases, specific zoning requests bring your attention to shortcomings or changes that may be needed based on past time zoning ordinance. And that may be a task regardless of what you decide on this zoning that you might find appropriate. Planning commission can also initiate that, they can make recommendations, they go forward with the hearing to that effect.
Apologies, maybe I'm already supposed to know this then. So we have a C1 and C2, and what's the current request? To rezone to a C1?
C2, I believe.
C2, so in residential, in R2, I believe the correct terminology is, and I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, is daycare homes. And I believe our code, the Village of Hudson code refers to 8 or less. The word daycare centers is an example of a business in C2, if memory serves me correctly. So per Pat's suggestion, we could maybe move back to C1 as a planning commission member spoke earlier about, we had a meeting, grain bins are only allowed in industrial. That's a specific example. If Pat's suggesting that the planning commission maybe look at that should be in C1 instead of industrial, if that's what is so deemed appropriate. But there is numerous, to Joe, to your question, there is numerous in our code examples of businesses that are allowed in C1, C2, and industrial currently.
I mean, so if we had one of these classifications with only acceptable things being neighborhood-friendly businesses, I think a doctor's office is a pretty good example. That seems like a neighborhood-friendly business. A daycare sounds like a neighborhood-friendly business. One of our classifications is that, we could own this, that would be.
I think generally, as I read the list, and this is strictly my interpretation, is C1, as you put it, Joe, is more residential friendly businesses. And as we get to C2 and then industrial, they're more harsher, non-residential friendly businesses, such as the grain elevator, an asphalt plant. Those things are in industrial rather than C1.
Yeah, because commercial daycare is apparently in C2, so the request is for C2. So apparently commercial daycares are currently in our classification of we don't want it in a residential area, is kind of what I'm understanding.
I believe our terminology is daycare center, and that is listed as
9 or more.
So Pat's suggestion is, would we like to maybe change that to C1 or create a whole new district for specifically that?
I mean, that seems like our whole discussion of what's friendly in a residential environment, and even the citizens that are directly affected that are close, and their concerns have been mostly that, right? What is generally accepted in a residential area, right? If it's something that's accepted in a residential area, I wouldn't think it would make your property values go down, right? It would be a benefit to someone buying that property, in my personal uninformed opinion. So it seems like that's what we should be discussing more than anything, is are our classifications correct? Should this plot be zoned something where a residential, I just made this phrase up, I don't know if there's a legal legal thing, but I mean, it's a residentially friendly business, right? Is there a commercial zoning we could use to put it in that zone? To allow something we want into town. I mean, a lot of people say we want a daycare in town, right? So it seems like we should have a commercial zone where that could be possible.
Oftentimes your distinction in C1, C2, R1, R2, R3, R4, I1, I2, those, as you go from the lower numbers to higher numbers, you're really reflecting an intensity in the use. So think about residential, R1 is traditional, single family zone. R2, you guys may stop R2, R2 is often multifamily. I1 industrial is light industrial, I2 industrial is often heavy industrial. In commercial, sometimes you have a central or a business or a core commercial, and then you have a off-highway commercial, just an idea. So as those numbers progress, and that's not by law, but by practice, those are also often reflective of the intensity of the use. If your prerogative is that C2 is appropriate, but perhaps C1 is appropriate for use, we actually have to make we got more procedure we have to go through to get that back before we. So it's not within the scope of what your hearing was on, it's not within the scope of the petition. You actually have to refer the matter back to the planning commission for hearing on the zoning ordinance change, for which they can make a recommendation and that would come back to you.
So you said what voting yes means, but if you vote no, that just means, it still means nothing happens, right? It doesn't change the zoning of the thing.
Yeah, so, essentially, the motion, and I don't speak for movement, and I seconded it, and the party seconded it. But the motion is to accept the planning commission's recommendation, which is to reject the rezone. So if you vote no to reject the rezoning, then that leaves the petition still open, because we rejected it. Essentially, we said no to rejecting it, but we didn't grant it either.
At the end of the day, it's still residential.
Correct.
Yes or no, it's residential still.
That petition remains open for, you're required to act within 3 months of the recommendation of the planning commission, otherwise the petition expires for lack of action by the board. Yes, if you only act on the motion before you, and if that motion fails, property is still residential, but you still have to go to this meeting or a future meeting, act on the request and grant it with an appropriate motion.
Okay, just try and clarify where we're at. We have a motion and a second to accept the planning commission report and leave the property zoned residential. So a yes vote would be to accept that motion, which would leave the property residential. A no vote would open up the opportunity to vote to make it commercial. And the special use permits, I guess, could happen either way. So, okay, so are we clear on the procedure? Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, additional question, I mean, so the current request is a zoning C2. But so if we accept that, if we accept the planning commissions and leave it residential, okay. If we don't, if I voted no, right, I don't want to accept the planning commissions, but we'd have to go through the whole process again anyway if we wanted to make it C1, right? So I mean, if you want,
We have to someone would have to make a motion.
We could make a motion to.
The petition C2, so if you wanted, and the other issue you have tonight is C2 does not permit a daycare center. So if I misspoke, C1 does not permit a daycare center. So the planning commission conducted the hearing, made a recommendation to you on the petitioner's request to rezone the property C2. So if it was your prerogative that you would like the planning commission to look at it, do a hearing on an ordinance change to consider whether a daycare center would be an appropriate use in a C1 district, I suggest you vote no on the motion, and then you refer the matter back to the planning commission for the proceedings. You'd have to publish notice, but I wouldn't rezone it until you're also concurrent to C1, unless you're also concurrently making a zoning amendment, because the rezoning is to accommodate a particular use. If you're not gonna be able to accommodate that particular use by changing to C1, so put both on the same track.
Right, we have to move commercial daycare to C1 is what you said, yeah.
Yes.
So if we voted tonight to move to C2, does that mean at a later point in time, we could still vote to change it to C1 at the time that the daycare center would be changed to a C1?
Could make it C2 tonight and later change the ordinance and rezone it to C1. Yes, sir, you can do that.
And the reason I ask that is then the requester would have an answer as far as is it gonna be permissible or not? That's why I asked about that.
Does that need to be on the agenda for us to vote on that, for it to be commercial tonight?
So it's, that line item planning commission recommendation vote is intended to reflect this action item, which is what the petition was.
Okay, every time we ask for a vote, but we have more questions, so I'm not gonna ask that quite yet.
I'm gonna ask the question later. So, you just, so if we all vote yes, does that actually rezone the property, or does that just say we agree with the planning commission?
The motion is to, I would rather, I think it's clear if I express it as an action item on a petition. So we have a petition for rezoning. The motion is to reject the petition for rezone. So if you say yes, you're denying rezone. As to C2, that does not preclude you from still referring, asking the planning commission to consider an ordinance change. It doesn't preclude further proceedings down a C1 road, but you would be saying, no, we will not approve your petition, rejecting or denying your petition to rezone to C2.
Clear to everyone but me.
It's a double negative, so it's hard to track.
The motion is to accept the planning commission's recommendation.
And we all vote yes, it
If
gets
we all
rezoned?
No, it stays R2, that's what the planning commission recommended.
Yeah, it does, okay. Okay, so. If we vote no, that doesn't change it to commercial though, right?
Correct.
Okay, correct.
But it opens the floor that if you want to make a motion to accept the petition's request to rezone it commercial, you can make a motion to do that. Because it's all part of the same stuff.
Before we have to assess the before we rezone.
Yeah, I think that's what's confusing, Bill. We're jumping classifications and moving things around and
If you wanna leave it residential, your vote is yes. If you wanna change it to commercial, your vote would be no. That would not change it, but we would need votes for the motion not to carry.
And then we need the whole new process if we want to try to do the C1 thing. We gotta change the ordinance, they gotta do a new petition.
Yes, so if, regardless of what happens on the motion that's on the floor, if it was the will of the board, or request of the board, the planning commission, the planning commission could initiate new proceedings on making an amendment to the zoning ordinance, usually daycare center to permitted use under one. Concurrently, the petitioner in this rezoning could ask for a rezoning to C1. And the planning commission could concurrently hold hearings on both of those propositions. They can hold a hearing, is C1 fit, is this property well suited for C1? And is it appropriate for land use regulations in Hudson to make daycare center permitted use in C1. Both those issues would come back to you at another meeting, roughly 30 days from now, give or take. And then you would first have to, act on the whether to make daycare center permitted in C1. Then you would also act at that meeting whether to rezone this property in C1.
I just feel like there has to be some commercial use that's neighborhood friendly. And certainly we don't really have those well defined. So I think more commercial space in Hudson would be good. And I think we ought to be able to have a list of commercial uses that fit in a neighborhood. Maybe we don't have that now.
Customarily, I would say, one of the ways in which some zoning ordinances specify the types of commercial uses which you would normally find to be suitable in a residential area is through special uses for the residential zoning district. So in some communities, as an example, a funeral home is a special use in a residential district. Or pick some other, a doctor's office. Those are hypothetical examples in other communities, but of specific uses that might be okay in a residential neighborhood where we say, in this instance, this particular use would want to be okay. The petitioner here's advice that doesn't have to be financing, but that is another tool you can use from a land use management standpoint to say, we're gonna define some things that we're okay with in a residential district in some circumstances under some conditions.
But so that's the typical way communities do it, is to leave it lone residential and then have special uses that are listed, and that would be typical.
To the point you're raising, your statement was, paraphrasing, there has to be some commercial uses we're okay with having in a residential area. That's ding, 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 special use. That's a bell that rings in my head as the way that specific concern is normally accounted. Apart from that, by having tiers of commercial uses, that's the next closest thing you have, is to say, okay. And one of the reasons you have tiers of commercial uses is because then you can say, as we consider the zoning of these parcels based on their proximity to residential, we may be okay with C1 but not C2 uses in this area. That's another similar tool, but a little bit different than what I understand you saying you should have. And you do have, I believe you do have some residential special uses, but not that accommodates this.
Hey Dave, can I ask something from a planning commission perspective?
Yes.
So when you talk about the C1, C2 and how you can differentiate, as the planning commission moves forward, this is good information for us to glean. So are those, when you look at C1, C2, is that like a contiguous thing? Where you would see your C1s maybe would be here and then your C2s? Or are you looking at like, you can have a C1 there and a C2 there? And I guess when you look at the comment that was made to me about the area out by Dollar General, is the direction we should be thinking about in the board's perspective, is that a commercial area that we want to develop? Right, but I guess that I regress. So when we look at C1, C2 going forward as a planning commission, and as they move forward looking at that in the future, because it sounds like we have an appetite to look at something like that within the village of Worthwell. Is that a continuum type thing that we look at, or how does that?
It sometimes is, it sometimes isn't. So it's not required to be a continuum. You don't have to step from C1 to C2. Sometimes you have isolated pockets of areas where, from a planning and land use standpoint, this area only seems appropriate for C1, and then there are other times when it seems appropriate to step down C2 to C1. As an example, using the Dollar General and not predisposing a priority to the planning commission. But the closer you get to the interstate, usually the more acceptable a C2 type use would be as opposed to C1. So that might be an area where, as you look to future development, a continuum from C2 stepping down to C1 as you get into the core of town might make sense. Now maybe go south down Broadway and say, Whitaker's is got this zoning classification, and maybe we see other commercial near there, but not a place for C2. And I'm just giving a hypothetical. So direct answer to your question, no, it doesn't have to be on a continuum of use C2, that's C1. It can be pockets of C1 here, pockets of C2 there.
But you would keep, in theory, you would keep like C1s together, or until you move, if you did contiguum, if you did contiguum, you would normally see C1s together or C2s together kind of thing.
And broadly in zoning, we usually like to see some harmony between neighboring uses, so, yeah, in the perfect world, yes. Now, I say that with a necessary acknowledgement that land use planning in small towns doesn't always lend itself to a perfect world. So if we were sitting down drawing a zoning map for a new town we're all inventing today, that's exactly how we lay it out. It doesn't always work that way in real life in small towns.
That would be easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's just good thought. And I just wanted to make sure that I understood better, and then the planning commission is definitely privy to that, because I think it's coming that way.
Okay, do any of the trustees or planning commission members have any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, we have a motion on the floor to accept the planning commission report and leave the property residential. A yes vote means we accept the report and we intend to leave it residential. A no vote means that it will be up for additional discussion to possibly rezone it as commercial. So if there are no other comments or questions, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Joe Boyd?
Yes.
Kathy Brooks?
Yes.
Kevin Kelly?
Yes.
Aaron Kinder?
No.
Phil Morris?
Yes.
Lynn Morris?
No.
What is the tally, 42, 4 yeses and 2 nos?
That's correct.
Okay, so the motion carries. The property we will accept the planning commission's recommendation to leave the property as residential. Okay, with that being said, is this a okay time to open discussion on a special use permit?
What, I think, yeah, you have. You have special use on the agenda. Also another option, which is not on the agenda, which you can discuss, but can't vote on, but though you wouldn't have to vote, is the idea of sending it back to the planning commission to consider moving daycare center from C2 to C1. So if either of those were matters that the board would like further planning commission proceedings on, now would be an appropriate time for you to express that. You don't necessarily have to make a motion to send it to the planning commission for a vote. Especially use, you could make a motion on the other, you can't. But if a consensus said, yeah, we'd like to see that, then the planning commission can move forward with a public hearing and bring the recommendation back. Or you could just leave it alone, take no further action, and deny the petition by your last vote. And we can not be back before you.
I think I'd like to forward to the planning commission to review for C1, because actually it's probably a good idea, as well as to review the special uses for actually all commercial, all districts, all zoning districts.
And the planning commission can certainly give you feedback. This is one, this suggestion, is you may, the planning commission may have to bifurcate or split those into, I would imagine the use meetings, they could focus initially on the pressing use issues, which is whether to move daycare center to a permitted use in C1, and then other reclassifications they could put out for the meetings on.
My vote yes was because your comments that the typical way this is done is to have a special use in residential. So I mean, it's typically a good idea to do things, like everybody else is doing them. I mean, if that's the typical way this is done, then we should just have a special use in residential. I understand apparently the loan that has been, worked on isn't okay with that. Well, I hope there's another lender or something. I mean, if that's the typical way it's done, then someone out there must loan to this. So,
And if I may just make sure my point. When I said it's a typical way it's done, what I was intending to communicate is if the goal is we want to accommodate in some cases, commercial in an otherwise residential area. There's a couple reasons. One, yes, special use is usually the way that's done. A couple reasons for that. One of the key reasons for that is because you can impose conditions on the award of a special use. You can say you need landscape screening, or we need, X, Y, and Z done to help mitigate against adverse effects to make it. But a special use permit used to be called a conditional zoning permit. So under some conditions, in the zoning district, we will allow this particular use. So your statement was there has to be some way to have some commercial uses we're good with in a residential neighborhood, absolutely special use way to do it. I was not intending to convey that a special use is always a way to take yourself.
No. So my point to Kathy's comment is, to go back and restart everything and go for C1 and move daycare to C1, it doesn't really seem necessary. It seems like we can do a special use tonight and the daycare can go in if I don't know what the lender is saying, but, if if special use is common, then surely it must work for lenders somehow. So maybe they would reconsider, but we could, tonight, it's on the agenda to vote to do a special use. We could have that.
But we have to go through the planning commission, no matter what. The vote is basically, does the board want to do a special use for the R2?
Oh, just to put that in the
process.
Ordinance.
To start it. Yes.
There's no available special use right now for daycare center and R2.
And then we have to vote and put that in first, and then they have to apply for that.
That has to go back to planning commission for public hearings, and this is zoning ordinance change. Now, just that, if they were inclined to apply for it, they don't have to apply for it, that's up to them. But if you were to make that available special use, the public hearing on whether to make that zoning change can be held concurrently with their application, this property owner's application to award them the special use. The planning commission can say, we recommend yes or no to make this a special use. And they can say, assuming that you do make this available, we recommend yes or no to awarding that special use to Smiles Daycare or the applicant. Yeah, it's not, that wasn't within the scope of what planning commission held a hearing on it, and so you have to send it back there. State law requires for zoning ordinance change, they have to have a public hearing.
Can it be for more than just the daycare?
Yeah, you can make, so you're gonna define a use.
For the special use to defined as in a residential district as this, and this.
And you can add others to the list, so you have a section in your code that says special uses in each district. So to account, if your feeling was the best land use management to allow a daycare center here, we make that a special use, we put daycare center on the list. But they could also consider whether there are other medical office or something like that, that they also feel to be an appropriate special use.
My recommendation would be to consider the urgency of what's at hand with the first assignment for the planning commission rather than do broad categories of things.
Well, the problem is we're getting a little weak in the planning commission. In fact, I have 2 members to swear in tonight, which will meet the bare minimum for the planning commission. And then I will consult with them after our meeting to see when they're available to look at this issue.
Just suggesting that as far as if we make a motion to have this addressed by the planning commission, that we try and minimize what we're trying to do here. That's all. Okay.
So if we vote to do the special use, can we also still look to move daycares from C2 to C1?
Yes.
And send that to them?
You could send both issues to them and have them make recommendation on both. And we could publish both, and then they can say, do one, do both, do none.
I recommend we send this to the planning commission.
Okay, can you be a little more specific?
Well, I'm gonna jump in before you do so, because we only have special use on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna recommend, we can deal with the C1 at a later date. Or in another recommendation issue, yeah. But I'd like to recommend that the special use for daycare go to the planning commission with any additional items that are appropriate for an R2 district.
Okay, so you have a motion and a second, now we're repeating it correctly, Allison, so when you get a type, will you please repeat it?
I didn't hear it all either.
Okay.
All I have is recommend special use go to the planning commission with other items appropriate.
For the, for review for a special use for daycare or, and or other appropriate entity. Users, okay.
Okay, so that would apply citywide, not just to that lot, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
That would apply village-wide, not just to that lot.
Right, that's a blanket item.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to the planning commission review special uses for R2, is that a correct summary? Okay, any other discussion or questions? If not, Allison, roll call? Yeah, Kevin.
Roy Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Aaron Kinder.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I have two planning commission members to swear in, I think. Guys? Three?
Yeah.
All right, I lied, I have three. Yay! Success!
Before we swear them in, they were appointed prior, by name by the board, you just were named.
I want to ask you a question. If there's any difference, if someone in C1 and C2 has a different, description, and this would change. We're sure C1 is what it is, right?
No, I'd have to print them out, I'm not sure.
But what happens, what happens if it's C2?
Then it would be just, what do you mean?
Well,
Like daycare?
yeah,
All right, daycare right now is under C2. We don't have any special uses or any defined uses under C1
okay,
at all that I'm aware of.
We would have to, I can check the code, but surely we have permitted uses in C1. If your question is, if our assumption tonight on what the difference is between C1 and C2 is incorrect, if it appears from the cluster of uses that C1 is low intent, if, we're wrong on which one's low intensity and high intensity commercial, can you change the purpose of the district?
we have to go through the whole process, that's all I'm
Yes,
asking.
any change to Title IX of our code requires a public.
in reference to your question as far as where they appointed previously, does the appointment 2, 3, or 4 years ago count, or this renewing?
Yeah, so once they're sworn in, it's for the duration of the term.
Right.
So if they were appointed to a 4-year term 3 years ago, that oath they were administered 3 years ago continues.
Okay, so if they were appointed 4 years ago and the 4-year term is up, then what do
Then we
we?
need to reappoint.
Okay,
But then the thing is, the ordinance says on April 30th of this year, their term has to be renewed. Or April 30th of their 4-year term, like if they started in December of 2019, their term ends, in my mind, it ended December of 2023. 23, they're 5 years. 4 year, 22. April 30th of that fourth year, they have to renew.
So they have to be reappointed before they renew.
Right.
So much like you guys are reelected as trustees, they have to be reappointed to their seats. And then once they're reappointed, you approve the reappointment, and then they're sworn.
All right, do I have to make a motion to do that?
We have swear in members of the planning commission. Dave actually makes the nomination, and then you guys approve the appointment.
I would nominate these three fine gentlemen for the planning commission role. If any of the trustees would like to make that a motion.
I make a motion to appoint the three guys, the planning commission.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Now you guys can be sworn in. Sorry.
I, and state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of planning commission member to the best of my ability. You can sign things that are written still back there.
I think our planning commission members have a pretty tough job. We really appreciate your efforts and everything you've done with this, so I think a little round of applause is in order for this.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay? You can always ask for 500 pieces.
I didn't think about that.
Okay? Kathy, you want to continue with your agenda?
Yes, the final item on my agenda is to get an approval, discuss and approve the TIF application for Sitting Bull. Basically, it's a renewal of 3 applications from last year's TIF that was approved. We had approved TIF application last year for them, but due to construction issues, I guess, they never got it done. And since it's already expired, they have refilled out their application and requesting the same.
I think Kevin may not have been on the board when we looked at it last time. I think it was an application to Tuck Point, the front of the building.
Right, they have a quote for just short of $8,600, $8,595 for tuck pointing their building. And like I said, we had approved it last year, but due to circumstances beyond their control, they weren't able to do it, so they were never issued any grant money from the TIF concerning it, and they have reapplied for the same item. And the grant is contingent upon when they turn in the paid invoice, the grant will reimburse them up to $7,500.
I believe it's $7,500 or 75% of the project also.
Yeah.
So they're a little less than $500.
Yeah, 75% of the total verified costs incurred and verified for the project not to exceed $7,500 on a property by property basis. And like I said, the problem, they just ran into it expires. There's a time when, 180 days. So I make a motion to accept the, TIF application from the Enroll.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any, to accept the TIF application from Sitting Bull? Is there any final questions or discussion? Not, we have to do a roll call
Joe Boyd.
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Kevin Kelly.
Yes.
Aaron Kinder.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Lynn Norris.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd like to say is thank you, Doug White, Rory Whalen, and Alan Apple for renewing your planning commission appointments. Thank you, gentlemen.
We still have an opening. So if any of you in the audience have any recommendations for planning commission member, please see Kathy or me. Thank you. Kathy, did you have anything else?
No, sir, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next is place, Kevin.
The only thing that I have tonight is to review our banking investments that we have. We have, I passed out, for that, I thought you were ready to fill. So you have yours there too. But I've got quotes or rates for CDs for UCB Bank, and those are to be confidential. Those are our rates and UCB Bank. Just to reiterate, the outlet publicized, so I made a copy of it for everybody. SEPTU and UC Bank. So, based upon the rates there, we'll look at that for a moment. Look at those.
UCB looks like the best of the group. That's the one in town, right?
That's the local bank, right? Now, there's comments on, again, I can't tell the rate, but you can see the rate for the money market for the minimum 250K balance. That rate, the last I heard from Rhonda today is that is not confirmed. She's gonna go through her management or corporate office to get that rate confirmed. That's what's requested for us. And then I also provide, I asked her to provide the other tiers. If that's 250,000 and up, but then what are the rates for other tiers, like 100,000 or less, 150,000 or less, et cetera. What I'm recommending, and obviously I want to hear your input on this, is that the other sheet too is Sarah provided a nice spreadsheet of our current balances as of today, correct, roughly today. So based upon general fund, the MFT, water, TIF, CDs, the DUI fund, and drug. That's the $3.5 million. So what I'm suggesting is that we invest this at a 3 and kind of tier it, and ladder it between a 3, 6, and 12 month. If we surface it in May, that means if we do a year, that will be available for next budget year. And if we do 3 to 6 months, that will be, that will be, it will still come out to be May of next year, since there's multiples of 3 basically, so.
How many different accounts? Like we have to keep certain funds in
That's
certain.
correct, we have to keep, and we have to keep, and I think, tell me, do this, keep it. But we have to keep enterprise fund, which is water, we have to keep that separate fund, we can't commingle those funds with the general revenue fund, so we have to keep those separate. So that would be a minimum of 6, then we bring it out 3 for water, 3 for general fund. And from what I understand from the MFT, we can put it into a CD as long as it's readily available, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Or we could put that into the money market or interest checking account too, that's an option. But I think what we're trying to do is try to do it this month so that we can get restricted earning interest more. Is better.
So your recommendation is do the 3 CDs or do some CDs and still some?
What,
What do you think?
what, I mean, I think that we have too much into our actual business interest account, that we can actually reduce that down, and that can be a board decision. I would recommend roughly 3 months of expenses, so we have a buffer in our checking account, right? To do that. Based upon what we get an answer back from Rhonda, we could actually get, from UCD Bank, Rhonda Maddox is the VP and branch manager of the local, branch here in Hudson. We could actually, put that into the money market, sweep it over into the business interest account, which we currently are doing, so we're maximizing the interest that we're getting on our village funds. And then everything else, we invested in a CD. And we could split it in thirds. I would say interest rates could rise or they could fall, right? I mean, they could go either. Anyway, right now, I think there might be first talk about the Federal Reserve is increasing rates in the upcoming months. That's possible, who knows? But then if we invested in thirds, 3, 6, and 12, then we could kind of hedge that and maybe maximize that. And plus two, it does free up, and it does allow us to have access to the funds in case we do need it. I know that's I know appropriation, I learned that tonight from Pat. I know there's some, but at least it gives us some options and not tying up everything for a year. But I want to hear your thoughts though.
One minor point of procedural clarification, it's actually Sarah has authority to make these choices. You give her direction, but as treasurer, she is limited by, you have to approve any depositories, and then you have a financial policy which designates which types of places or types of investments you can put village dollars. But in terms of deciding some of these things you're discussing, very valuable for the board to give her insight and direction, so she knows what she's doing is supported by the board, but ultimately it's not a motion thing where you say we want a third. It more be consensus or direction, but she does have as treasurer discretion to make the ultimate choice. And like they get set trick or treating hours, which have their own niche, and there's a few things reserved the executive or individual officers. What was your highest order?
Well, in that is, I do recommend and suggest that we keep UCD Bank based upon these rates. I mean, I think they've been very helpful, work with us. I would have thanked Phil, because I think Phil mentioned at the last meeting to, hey, just reach out to, UCD, and I did, and they were very, I think, at least they made things competitive for us. So we can have a local bank and get very competitive rates to help the residents making more money, so we can do more things, right? So, what's the board's
I
thoughts?
agree with everything you've said, yeah, I think we should rework it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree.
So, I know we don't have to take a roll call vote or anything like this, but, would you agree that we keep roughly 3 months of expenses as reserve in our business interest account? And then invest the remaining balances into a 3, 6, and 12 month spread evenly over those 3 terms? Okay. Well, then I can work with Lynn and Sarah, Mayor, on that. Does that seem reasonable to you? Yeah, I want to make sure the mayor's okay too. Okay.
And I know you spent a lot of time on this and working with different organizations and everything, so we want to thank you. You know, this is a good opportunity for the village to take advantage of high interest rates, which haven't been there for years and years. And so getting our money invested wisely means a lot more now than what it did 5, 10 years ago. So thanks for your effort with that.
Welcome in, Sarah, who's been, Redford, and Lynn has
Right.
in there too.
All
some
three of
boards,
you.
so
I didn't
as
mean
well,
to
so,
short.
So, and Rhonda and Carol, here, UCD as well, so,
Yeah, so, the other part of it is that we do have some CDs tied up. I think the water ones have a higher rate, and those are coming due in November. But everything else we can cash out and then reinvest those at higher rates, plus 3 terms. That works. That's all I have.
Excellent. Thanks to all three of you for your work on this. So, Kevin, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Water department, Joe? Okay, public property, Aaron?
Yeah, like Dennis discussed, we had a piece of playground equipment that's damaged that we're looking at replacing, unfortunately. So I put it on just in case we happen to get prices tonight, unfortunately didn't yet, so we can keep working through it and hopefully have something for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
There's one other thing I wanted to discuss, just the status on the House Bill 684, which is the Central Illinois Regional Airport's attempt to change their organization. At our last meeting, we passed a resolution opposing what they're trying to do. At that point in time, we thought they were just trying to expand the tax base from Bloomington Normal to all of McLean County. Since then, we have learned that they were also, if this passes, they would also be able to increase their tax limit from 0.04 to 0.75, which is almost double. So, the mayor still opposes it. We're still actively communicating with representatives and senators about our opposition. We have another meeting Friday. And I just want to give everybody a status on it. So.
Dave, I have an update for you on that.
Okay.
I talked with Kathy Weber, the mayor at Crystal,
Yeah.
and she went down to the Capitol, and she's kept me informed of what's going on. The bill did not move today, in other words, it's.
Correct. It was on the calendar, possibly be moved today, but it was not moved.
Yeah, that was approved, Representative Gibson.
Yeah, the mayors are trying to get some amendments on the resolution on the bill. Okay, next on the agenda is to move into open session, closed session if needed. I have nothing for closed session, we don't have anything on the agenda.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, for liquor commissioner.
Yes.
There was, you said, I believe last meeting, there was a business looking at the old ice cream store.
Yes, they have either purchased or leased it and applied for a liquor license for that building.
Is there an estimated opening time or any more information?
Danny, do you remember, I think it was mid-summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
Roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I spoke to them yesterday or the day before, went down there and saw them, they're kind of surface remodeling things and, looks like it's going well. So soon, I would say.
I was just curious because I hadn't heard anything else and I was like.
That's the status of that.
Something quick before we head to adjourn. So planning commission hearing is gonna be on making daycare center special use residential. There's discussion about considering whether to move daycare center in the commercial zoning from C2 to C1. And we can't vote on that tonight, but if we express that as a consensus item we want the planning commission to consider, we can ensure that's published for the same and included in the same public hearing. Is that your will that they look at that issue as well?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Second thing is, I know it's been a while since I've been here, just wanted to tell you guys how much I appreciate being able to attend by Zoom. I have 12 required monthly meetings a month, and I love coming here, I'm glad to be here in person. Anytime you want me here in person, I'm glad to be here. But the nights I can be here by Zoom, that's an extra hour with my family, matters a lot to me, so I thank you guys for that. And I know sometimes technology doesn't work, and I have to use finger gestures and type, and you're accommodating, and it was really appreciated, so I sincerely thank you for that.
We appreciate you coming tonight. and your comments have been really valuable to us, so.
My pleasure, thank you. I forgot something.
Yes.
With that, I forgot to mention something about the investment report. I've been working with Sarah to provide an investment report every either month or every quarter. So it actually shows what those investments that will, once we go going forward, what those rates are getting, what we've earned in interest, where we're at. Instead of, at least that's something that we can look at, maybe not every month, but every quarter. So, and Sarah's working, I know this is the year end for Sarah, so she's gonna be working on that and getting something, a sample for us.
You're awesome, Sarah. Thank you.
I didn't know you were so powerful.
Okay, we're through the agenda items. Did any of the trustees have anything else to bring up tonight? If not, this has been a difficult subject to broach, and I know everybody has really thought about it deep and talked to a lot of people about it. I appreciate everybody's work on this. And we look forward to the planning commission following up on the special use amendment and the daycare center use classification. So if no one has any additional business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.